What if the world's most powerful military alliance collapsed overnight? Like a taco, disintegrating in your hands. 1 minute you're holding on to something solid, feeling secure, and the next, whoops, ground beef in your lap, lettuce in your sock, and existential dread setting in. Would Europe be left defenseless? Would Russia and China take advantage?
Hey China, look at this stupid brain of salt guy. Would Russia and China take advantage? No, we will totally help NATO stay strong.
For 75 years, USA has been the big, muscular bouncer at the club of Western civilization. But now, that bouncer is eyeing the exit. And suddenly the VIP section is looking real vulnerable.
All right, cuties, daddy needs a nap. Being the world's sugar daddy and stopping the baby in the White House from eating the nuclear codes is a full-time job.
So, how did we get here? Well, Trump's America First policy put NATO in the hot seat, calling out allies for not spending enough on defense, and even hinting that the US might not step in to protect those who don't pay their share. But Obama and Biden have also pushed Europe to increase its defense budgets. So this isn't just a Trump issue.
Hey, do you guys miss me already? NATO? Oh yeah, I love that place. Great pancakes.
So is Trump right? Well, yes and no. Trump isn't wrong for pointing out that NATO has been an expensive friends with benefits situation for America. As of June 2024, a record 23 out of 32 members have now met the 2% GDP defense spending target. Yet despite that, the US still foots nearly 70% of NATO's total defense bill, providing the nukes, running the logistics, and doing most of the actual fighting. And in return, Europe gives moral support?
Excusez-moi, we contribute a lot, like really strong opinions about America, and honestly, you need to lose some weight.
So where does Trump miss the point? For all this tough talk, Trump ignores that NATO isn't just charity, it's an investment. America calls the shots on Europe's security policy through NATO. The US uses NATO bases to project power. Troops in Germany, Italy, Poland, and other European nations aren't just there for Europe's sake. They give America a front row seat to any crisis, whether it's in Ukraine, the Middle East, or even Africa. NATO allies have fought in US-led wars like Afghanistan and Iraq, supporting American foreign policy. And American weapons companies love NATO. When European countries boost defense spending, guess who they buy from? Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and every other US defense company, raking in billions of those sweet NATO contracts.
Look, we're not saying Europe should be scared, but Europe should be very scared. So, for a limited time, when you buy 10 tanks, you get the privilege of buying 10 planes. Act fast before someone liberates your borders.
But here's the bigger picture. The US is shifting its focus away from Europe and NATO commitments to prioritize the Pacific. China, not Russia, is now seen as America's biggest long-term rival. The South China Sea, Taiwan, and China's rapidly expanding military pose a greater strategic challenge than anything happening in Europe. To counter China, the US is strengthening alliances like AUKUS, a security pact between Australia, the UK, and the US announced in 2021, which focuses on military cooperation and nuclear-powered submarines for Australia. It's also reinforcing the Quad, a strategic alliance between the US, India, Japan, and Australia, aimed at maintaining stability in the Indo-Pacific. Because frankly, Europe's problems don't keep American generals up at night the way China's growing navy does. So the bottom line is this: Trump's pay up or we're out attitude might be over the top, but he's not wrong about NATO being expensive. But maybe, just maybe, America should think twice before breaking up with NATO over money. Because once you ghost Europe, don't be surprised when they start flirting with someone else.
Hey China, we totally love human rights and democracy, obviously. But wow, you look so beautiful tonight, mon amour. So, want to come over and invest in our railways?
And in response, Europe finally decided to pick up the check. Only took 75 years and near World War III scare? But hey, better late than never, I guess. So the EU rolls out the shiny new 800 billion euros Rearm Europe plan. This decision was finalized during an emergency summit in Brussels, marking a pivotal moment for European defense, including 150 billion euros in loans for joint procurement of European-made defense equipment. So that begs the question, why hasn't Europe already done this? Well, getting the EU to agree on military strategy is like a group project where everyone speaks a different language and hates each other's guts. For example, some countries want full EU control, others link to NATO. And Poland? Poland is just over here loading up on tanks because it knows history repeats itself. Another reason is that Europe would rather fund social programs, healthcare, and paid vacations than build tanks and missiles.
You skipped the gym for years, and now you're realizing you have to outrun a bear.
No, the USA will change its mind, right, USA? Right?
And the third reason is Europe's defense industry is rusty. Even with all this new cash, their defense industry isn't built for rapid expansion. Production lines for tanks, missiles, and fighter jets takes years to scale up. Countries can't even agree on which weapons to use because, well, God forbid France buys a German tank.
Does your tank have AC?
9. It is built for efficiency, not comfort.
Mais non, I want AC. Maybe a little espresso machine too.
9. It is a tank, not a cafe, you imbecile. Now stop being a diva like France and subscribe to this channel for maximum efficiency.
So what's the bottom line? Well, Europe can't just throw 800 billion euros at the problem and expect instant military power. Right now, NATO, aka America, is still the backbone of European security. In 10 years, maybe France and Germany stop arguing long enough to build a real EU army. And in 20 years...
In 20 years, I will be enjoying a French vineyard.
You'll be dead by then.
Oh no, I won't. I age like Soviet propaganda and I laugh in KGB.
So now with Europe reaching for the checkbook, the big question is, will this affect the American economy? Right now, American weapons companies are NATO's go-to supplier. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman make billions selling F-35s, missiles, and spare parts to European allies. But Europe wants to shift to domestic production, which means billions in lost US defense contracts.
Not before Germany adds AC and espresso in the tanks.
Smelly cheese.
So while US defense giants might lose future deals, they're still cashing in for now. On the other side of the coin, Europe needs to spend hundreds of billions on defense. But where's that money going to come from? Germany is already facing an economic slowdown. Will they sacrifice their budget surplus for defense? Macron is dreaming of an EU army, but good luck convincing French voters to cut social benefits for tanks. And Italy and Spain are struggling economically. Where exactly is this extra cash for fighter jets supposed to come from? This is why military spending could shake European economies. Some countries will overspend and wreck their budgets, while others will try to juggle social programs and defense only to fail at both. At the end of the day, there's a lot to figure out. And as of now, no one can predict how this will play out. Whether Europe can successfully build a stronger defense, or if economic strain weakens the effort remains to be seen. One thing's for sure though, the world is watching.
I absolutely am not. Leave me out of this. I have enough problems already.
While Europe debates its military future, some NATO members aren't waiting. Poland and the Baltics already know what happens when Russia gets ambitious. It happened in the 40s, and they remember way better than Western Europe does.
What happened in the 40s?
Really? You don't know what happened, huh? Unbelievable.
So Poland, the military Jimbro of Europe, plans to increase its defense spending to 4.7% of GDP, the highest within NATO, and is considering raising it to 5%. That's more than double what Germany spends. Poland is even considering a constitutional amendment to enshrine defense spending and introducing compulsory military training for all adult men. At this rate, Poland won't just be defending itself. They'll have enough firepower to invade France out of pure frustration.
Man, I just wanna make pierogi and chill. Kurwa. But no, now I gotta buy tanks, train an army, and prepare for the same bullshit that happens every century. Seriously, can I get one generation without a war? Just one?
The Baltic states also aren't taking any chances, strengthening regional defense, stockpiling weapons, and calling for permanent NATO bases. The bottom line for these countries is this: if NATO stays strong, great, they'll be a bigger force. If NATO collapses, they'll be ready to fight alone. So what happens to non-EU members of NATO if the alliance collapses? Now, to be clear, NATO is far from collapsing. But if it did, the impact on non-EU members would be just as significant. Earlier, we said it would take decades for Europe to build its military complex. But like any family, even a dysfunctional one, they're still in it together. What about the non-EU members? Let's start with the easiest one, Canada. The polite neighbor that suddenly realizes the party is on fire.
Oh no, I am no longer polite. In fact, watch this. I'm not even gonna say sorry. Wait, no, I can't do it. I'm so sorry.
Well, they'll stick with the US and NORAD, a joint US-Canada military organization responsible for detecting and defending against airborne and airspace threats to North America, including missiles and aircraft. They might pivot to the Indo-Pacific since China is now Washington's main character energy villain. They could also theoretically join European-led defense pact, but let's be real, Canada isn't sailing its navy across the Atlantic for war. Instead, they'll probably just send peacekeepers, make a few angry speeches at the UN, and call it a day. Next up, the UK. They might lead a NATO 2.0 alliance, probably alongside Poland, Germany, and France, if France stops being difficult, of course.
Yeah. AC and tanks, we get it.
They could become America's #1 European military partner, especially in nuclear deterrence. But most likely, they would strengthen AUKUS ties and remind China that Britain once had a vast Pacific empire. And then there's Turkey, the wild card. One of NATO's biggest armies, a strategic location, and yep, completely unpredictable.
Ah yes, NATO. My dear friends, or are you my enemies? Depends on the week. But hey, at least you love my kebabs, no?
Turkey could pivot to Russia or China if it benefits them, but its location is too important for Europe. So more likely, they would hold Europe hostage, demanding more military influence, better EU trade deals, and surely EU membership too. And the worst case scenario? Turkey forms a military alliance with Azerbaijan, Qatar, and Pakistan, turning the Black Sea and the Middle East into an even bigger geopolitical mess. Based on current events, NATO isn't going anywhere, but it's definitely going to change. How exactly? Well, that's still up in the air. With the world shifting fast, the alliance will have to adapt. But what that looks like is anyone's guess.
Do you see what I have to deal with all the time? Please make it a little easier on me, a tiny bit. And I don't know. Maybe like this video.
So, what do you think? Is it fair for Europe to rely so much on America when the US pays nearly 70% of NATO's total defense budget? Should the US pull back from NATO to focus on China? Or does maintaining NATO actually help the US contain both Russia and China at the same time? With the EU's 800 billion euros defense plan now approved, can Europe replace NATO's military power? If NATO collapses or weakens, does that increase the risk of war in Europe? Please let us know what you think in the comments.